Why are 50% of Americans unmarried and why most relationships fail? Watch today's show to get a behind the scenes peek into love and relationships and analysis of the slow but steady shift towards happily single or happily alone, as some people would say. In a society profoundly metamorphosed by social and technological norms, we help you understand why relationships don't last and why you can't find love. Oh, by the way, blaming bad luck or your partner is only half the story. Welcome back, folks, to another edition of Sweetie Kiwi. Today, I'm very happy to be back with you. I hope you are doing fantastic, and if you are doing as great as I am, go grab a cup of coffee or tea or vodka, and let's roll. Today, we want to talk about the fundamental questions rather than everybody wants to ask, right? Why are we unmarried? Most of us, one American out of two is single or happily single, right? Now, number one, perfectionism. So the thing here is that what is perfectionism? Perfectionism, in essence, is the trait that makes life an endless report card on looks or accomplishment, right? So this is basically an enduring track to unhappiness, to dissatisfaction. And this is usually accompanied by eating disorders, depression, anxiety, furor, ignorance sometimes, right? And perfectionism can be very toxic because those that are under its grip desire success, right? But the thing is, they are so focused on avoiding failure that they have a negative orientation, right? Because they consequently expect others' love and approval to be conditional on a flawless performance, right? So perfectionism is a great block, is a great hurdle in us as a society getting love, right? Because it's driven primarily by internal pressures such as harsh judgments or the desire to avoid failure, right? Now, I'm not saying this is only endogenous, this is only internal. You also have an exogenous component here, right? I mean, society gives us some kind of perfectionistic tendencies that we have to follow, right? You just got to look at the fashion industry. I'm not picking on any industry here, but what I'm trying to say is, you look at Hollywood, the movies, the fashion industry. We live. It's a roller coaster, right? So people are becoming perfectionists. All right. So when you are a perfectionist, this undoubtedly leads to fear of failing, irritability, unhappiness, anxiety, all kinds of attributes, all kinds of weaknesses that makes your potential lover, your potential partner walk into your life, right? Number two, lack of integrity. Now, the thing here is that people are sacrificing honesty out of fear of abandonment, right? So we're ready to get in a relationship with anyone as long as we're not alone, right? And then when we realize that the person's is not what we're expecting, what we're expecting in terms of our values, but they kind of have something we aspire to. For instance, if they're rich, we forget about our personal values for the chance of living with someone who is rich, right? So the thing is that we somehow abandon ourselves into a relationship that sooner or later will be toxic because that relationship does not align with our inner values. Number three, guilt, right? You have to understand that guilt is anger turned against ourselves, right? This is basically a feeling that makes us feel untitled to love, to success, to prosperity, to happiness, right? You have to understand, in a typical relationship, guilt will hinder intimacy, right? Because we tend to avoid certain topics, certain situation. We avoid closeness, right? Because we're trying to hide what we're afraid of or what we're ashamed of, right? For fear of what? rejection, again, going back to what I said earlier, abandonment, right? We live in a society where you have the rise of social media, but people offline are still very lonely. So the fear, the anxiety over abandonment makes people actually feel guilty, and they tend to become dishonest in a relationship. All right, this is basically one of the things that's very important to understand. You can't feel guilty, you cannot be dishonest, and you cannot try to be perfectionist and aspire to be in a relationship, because the other person is a totally different person. So you got to work to accept the person as they are and try to embrace their idiosyncrasies, their uniqueness, and try to find a middle ground over that, right? This is one of the reasons why self-forgiveness, in other words, the idea of pushing guilt away, is embraced by all world religions. I'll be right back with more and more and more. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, folks, to another edition of Sweetie Kiwi. I'm just still here talking to you about the reasons why 50% of Americans are unmarried and why most relationships fail. Now, if you love the content so far, please consider subscribing to our channel. Turn on the notification bell so you can be notified whenever we drop a new show. Comment below, share, and like. Now, next reason, online dating and the illusion of endless love to be found, right? Now, if you understand, we live in a society where, with the advent of online tools, you have and this is an illusion. We believe that there is more supply than demand. In other words, I can just swipe right or left. If I lose one partner, one good partner, that's okay, because I can always get another partner. We have that illusion that we're chasing a perfect partner, which is what I said earlier, right? We're trying to be perfect. We're trying to be perfectionist. So and don't even get me started on partners who keep their profile active after starting a relationship with someone they've met on the same site. Think about it. You just met someone, you're very comfortable, you start a relationship, and you still keep your profile on the same site you've met the partner. In other words, you're just still trying to do trials and error, right? Because you never know. Now, there is an ugly truth about online dating. Now, for starters, people lie on their online dating profiles all the time, right? This is not even an earth-shattering revelation. The thing here is that everybody wants to sell themselves. People want to be appealing. People want to put themselves on their best light. So don't be surprised that you learn that people are lying. Now, the thing is that some people, especially research has been done, and news reports also have commented on the fact that most men, and I'm not picking on my my fellas here, but most men who are going online, I think I shouldn't be saying most men, but some men who are going online are just there for sex. All they want is sex, right? I mean, women might be looking for an honest relationship, a deep relationship, but the thing here is that some men are just there for sex, because they're thinking, hey, listen, if a woman has an online profile, she's probably just looking for sex too, right? Again, here I'm not really trying to generalize things here, but those things exist, right? Now, you also have something called the internet, and especially scams, right? Phony profiles, people out there in a foreign country trying to extract money from you, so you have the whole scam, all the swindles that have happened, and that still continue to happen. If you just take a look at the FBI website for internet sex, you would be for internet sex crimes, you'll be really surprised of all the rise of online dating related crimes, right? Now, another thing that's very important when it comes to what I call the ugly truth about online dating is that relationships don't last on the internet, right? I mean, research reports have shown that basically it's a very small percentage of a relationship that started online that lasts, right? Because the overwhelming majority of romantic relationships still begin offline. All right. So, and I'm not even talking about the fact that most people who meet their partners online tend to be picky and very judgmental, right? Again, going back to what I said earlier, they believe that there is more supply than demand. So this is a, if you will, this is a seller's market, right? So basically this is people looking. So they're kind of like a little, the idea here is that people are thinking that they are desperate, but they're not. All right. So number 5, the fifth reason why nearly half of Americans are unmarried is that we have a low self-esteem and judgment, right? Because as we talked about earlier about shame leads to low self-esteem, right? And judgment. In other words, you are constantly thinking that you are being judged, even though the other person is not judging you. You're thinking, oh, well, she's saying this about me. How dare she? So you constantly are on defense. You constantly are trying to protect yourself, right? And ultimately, this tendency is detrimental to the longevity of your relationship. The next thing here is distrust, right? So people are still, because they fear rejection and abandonment, they constantly expect the worst. They're suspicious. They start imagining things, untrue things about the partner, right? People start looking at we are in the era of smartphones, right? So if your partner doesn't want you to see his or her phone, you start doubting, you start thinking, thinking a lot of stuff. And because of that, you create an environment of distrust. Now, check me out. I'm not saying that if your partner doesn't want to share his phone data with you, this is a sign that he's legit. I'm just saying that, starting with distrust in a relationship is very, it's already nefarious for the relationship in the first place. There has to be a minimum of trust when you decide to get together with someone, right? All right, I'll be right back right after this. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, folks, to another edition of Sweetie Kiwi. We're still continuing our conversation around the main reasons why nearly 50% of Americans are unmarried and why most relationships fail. Now, you also have what I call a pandemic of comparisons. People constantly comparing themselves to a neighbor, to their coworkers, to people in their social network and their personal network, constantly trying to see if A equals B or A is superior to B. This kind of stuff puts us in a bad mindset, right? And this things is because, if you have guilt and distrust, you have fear of abandonment in the first place, you start really thinking about comparing yourself to somebody else, and you have complexes of inferiority or superiority, for that matter, starting to arise. Because if you think about it, the complex of superiority is in essence a defense to shame, right? Because you are trying to barricade yourself under the veneer of superiority. I'm holier than thou's kind of attitude. But this is actually hiding something deeper, right? Because if you're really comfortable with yourself in your skin, you would be humble. You will feel more grateful. You'll feel more, emotionally positive, right? So another reason, and this is the next one, another reason why nearly 50% of us are not married is, we have something called a lack of authenticity. So in other words, inauthenticity. People are not authentic. They're not original. They constantly try to put themselves again under the veneer of what they want society how they want society to see them, or how they want their partners to see them, right? The inability rather, to just show yourself as you are, just to speak your mind, just to to risk being rejected, to risk being judged. That inability is creating a lack, a deep scarcity when it comes to authentic relationships. And that leads to what? Leads to lack of trust, which leads to a lack of intimacy. And all of those things ultimately create a dysfunctional relationship that lacks everything from, trust to integrity to chemistry to closeness. Another element that is the root cause of people living quote unquote happily single or happily alone is the shame, right? So, shame basically puts forward the belief that we are unworthy of connection, we are unlovable, we are unlikable, right? If you think about it, let's say in the last 10 years, people posting stuff on Facebook, for instance, and when you get a dislike, as a matter of fact, why do you think Facebook has waited so long before implementing some kind of unlike button? For the last few years, it was only, you can only like something, a post on Facebook. If you don't like it, then you can't communicate. You can't engage with that particular post. Now they've tweaked their algorithm a little bit in the last 2 years or 3 years, but I guess what I'm trying to say here is that, people don't want to feel unliked. People don't want to feel unloved. People don't want to feel unlovable. So basically those beliefs of shame, those beliefs of distrust in oneself motivates ultimately our feelings and behavior, right? So if you think about that, those negative beliefs constantly run in the background, right? They derail our conscious intentions, so we can't really connect. We can't really find the partner who will believe us, the partner that we believe will accept us as we are, right? So the bottom line here is that for you to change that, you need to change your mindset. You need to change your beliefs. This is very important, and to look at partnership and relationships in general as more of a journey, not a journey with no end, a journey to walk with someone, with a stranger who later on will become a partner for life. All right, so folks, this is really it. Let me just recap here the reasons why we can't really find our loved, a partner for life. Basically, the reason why most of us are unmarried, not most of us, 50% of us are unmarried or living quote unquote happily, living happily single or happily alone, it has to do with perfectionism, lack of integrity, guilt, online dating, and the illusion, as I said, of endless love to be found, low self-esteem and judgment, distrust, comparisons, inauthenticity, and shame. All right, this is it, folks. If you love this show, if you love the content clarity and quality, please consider subscribing to our channel and turn on the notification bell so you will be notified whenever we drop a new show. Share this content, like it, comment below. We really want to hear from you. And until next time, I say stay marvelous.